So today I'm going to talk about my two favourite authors. My favourite author from when I was sort of younger, that type of sort of young adult or even children's book writer, and also my sort of adult writer that I really love. I love a lot of books, but these are the two favourite writers that I always come back to. And if I have nothing to read, which is very rare, but I want to just read something that I know I'm going to really enjoy, I come to them. First, I'm going to talk about Diana Wynne Jones, who sadly passed away last year. She's a writer that's been writing for many, many years, and this is actually the first book I read of hers. It's not the original one that I read. I lent that to someone and they never gave it back, and I really hate that, so I went and bought another one. But Charmed Life, which is the first one in the Crestomanchi series. It also won a few awards. It's very popular. The Crestomanchi series has multiple books and multiple storylines. The story in The Charmed Life by Diana Wynne Jones is two young kids, a brother and sister, get sent away to a castle to do magic, which sounds very familiar to the Harry Potter books. Many reviewers and writers believe that, or look at the similarities of the Harry Potter books to Diana Wynne Jones books, and believe that there must have been an influence to J.K. Rowling when writing Harry Potter. Diana Wynne Jones has even said in an article that she believes that J.K. Rowling must have read her books as a child, because there's a lot of inspiration obviously drawn from that and crossover and storylines. It wouldn't surprise me. I feel that a lot of the stuff that J.K. Rowling wrote about Harry Potter is very similar in the Diana Wynne Jones books. But then again, there's a lot of stories that sort of have that idea of wizards and magics in schools. One of the things I love about the Diana Wynne Jones books is they're not hard to read. A lot of fantasy books out there about magic and wizards and stuff, like say books like The Magician, or even the more recently Eragon series, they can be very dense and they can take a long time to read. Where with any of Diana Wynne Jones books is you can sit down and maybe a day or two and just read them. It's really lighthearted, enjoyable. They're also ones that it's very hard to put down once you start reading, hard to stop. So I definitely recommend reading this one, The Charmed Life. And also, you've probably heard of Howl's Moving Castle, which is one of my all-time favourites of Diana Wynne Jones. It was in 2000 and something. It was turned into a Japanese anime film. I personally hated the film, one of very few people who did. I really just hated the way they changed a lot of the story. It wasn't like it was a necessary change to be able to condense a book into a film format. It was just a change that was to sort of gravitate it more towards the animated anime film style, where they gave one of the main characters, Howl, who's a magician, wings, and he was fighting in this war. And in the end, the female main character ended up keeping her hair grey, and there was just all this stuff things that I loved about the book which weren't represented in the movie, and I thought the heart of the book and the heart of the movie were two very different things. But I think that it was wonderful that someone saw the creative genius in Diana Wynne Jones's writing and then articulated it into film, which I would actually love to see more of her stories, especially the Crestomanchi series or the Hexwood, which is one of my favourite books. One of my favourite book of all time is The Magician Conspiracy, the Merlin Conspiracy, sorry, which is a book that I think I've read about 5 times, and I would definitely recommend you reading that. The second writer I'm going to talk about today, I discovered when I think I was about 15, but my mum and her friends have been reading her books for a long time, and it is Janet Evanovich, who I have read, I think, nearly every book she has. I've tracked down all her early romance novels that she wrote, but the reason why I fell in love with her books was mainly for the Stephanie Plum series. There are now 19 in the series, and recently a movie came out last year of book number 1. The movie was quite good. I was quite surprised that they did quite well. I don't think it did very well, but I thought it did really good in capturing the essence of the story, except the end. They changed something around that I was like, what? That doesn't work. No, yeah, it doesn't work. But this is actually the very first one of the ones she read, and for some reason in our house we have 2 copies of the exact same one. Heart 8, which is number 8 in the book. They go like 1 for the money, 2 for the dough, 3 to get deadly, 4 to score, etc, etc. What I love about these books is they will actually make me laugh out loud. They're sort of like a romantic adventure crime-solving drama about this one character, Stephanie Plum, who in the first book gets fired from her lingerie buying job, so she's like a buyer, and she ends up taking up a job with her cousin Wynne, who is a bondsman, so she becomes a bounty hunter, and she is terrible at it. And she ends up getting instruction from this really good bounty hunter, ex-ranger, military man, nicknamed Ranger. And she also has sort of the love interest, though I much prefer her with Ranger than this other guy, Joe Morelli, who is a cop. And through all these different characters in her life, she somehow manages to scrape a living together, catching bad guys, a lot of them just people who were drunk and disorderly or prostitutes, and she gets like $50 here and there from bringing them in. Occasionally she'll have really big bounties and bring them. They're just funny, light-hearted, fun books, and the day that they get released I buy them and I read them that day and I laugh. And one of the best things about these books is anyone can read them and you can share them with them. I read them, my grandma reads them, we talk about them. One of the favourite people I discovered that read them, one of the leading bomb experts in not just Australia but the world, I had the book on me one day and I was chatting to him and he goes, "Oh, you read the Stephanie Plum books?" I go, "Yeah, I love them." And he goes, "I love reading them too, because in every book a car blows up and I love that." And I just thought that is so great that this really macho man can read this book, which is sort of pushed out there as a romance adventure, but he loves it because there's also the action of cars blowing up. Yeah, I've also read a lot of her romance novels, which are just really what are romance novels. They're nothing amazing, but she's got this narrative of humour that goes through all her books, which is really relatable. Things like someone slipping over and landing in like the mud in front of someone she really likes, or just when you have one of those really bad days but you can find the sense of humour in them. And that's what I love. Like if I'm having a shitty week, I will pick up one of these books. Doesn't matter which one in the series. You don't have to have read them from the first to the last. I read them all out of order in the beginning, and I think for about 15 onwards I read them in order because that's where I was up to when they started coming out. But you can just read them in any order, swap them with friends, chat. It's like you're either Edward or Jacob with the Twilight books. You're either a Morelli or a Ranger fan. I am totally a Ranger fan. So if Janet, you ever see this, please have Stephanie end up with Ranger, because he is the better one for her, and I love him and I wish he existed in real life. I would say that these books are like the Twilight books, but for older people who actually enjoy books that are well written. I do love the Twilight books, don't get me wrong there, but she's a brilliant writer, and there are so many other books that she has that are also extremely well written. And yeah, so the two authors I spoke about today, which are my two favourite authors, and I've got two of the books here, Diana Wayne Jones, who just, I love her books, I love reading them, and I think I'm going to have to, no, I don't have time to reread one of her books, I've got others I need to read, and Janet Evanovich, who, honestly, her writing has gotten me through so many tough times. Whenever I'm having a bad day, I'll pick up one of these books and it will completely change the way I see things and bring me back out. So to these two writers, I would say buy their books, read them, love them, share them, because they're definitely worth a read.